In the 1960s, NASA spent millions of dollars of taxpayers' money to develop a pen that would write in space. Now, a normal ballpoint pen works with the principle of gravitational force. In space, where there's no gravity, such a pen would not work. It took them years to develop such a so-called space pen. The Russians, however, simply used pencils. So, we have a tendency to complicate things, especially in a world where technologies also get more and more complicated or complex. It is essential to educate students in a way that they are able to design simple yet clever solutions to the design problems. And that is what we focus on at Fontys University of Applied Science in the Department of Industrial Design Engineering, right here in Venlo. Now, designing simple yet clever solutions is not easy. So if our main objective to make things simpler, what do we need? We need to be creative. We need to be inventive. We need to be clever. And in product design, that means you have to deal with all stages of the product life cycle. And all these stages have their impact on the design. So you can imagine, this is a simplified model, that it could get very complex. And you need to have a lot of knowledge to do so. So designing simple yet clever means investing a lot of time and energy to think your design through and get the best information, to make sure you have the best information to make the right decisions and to optimize your product. Our goal is to optimize the outcome of this formula. The sum of all functions divided by the sum of costs plus the sum of problems. Optimizing it by maximizing functions, minimizing costs, and minimizing problems. Now, this might seem a bit abstract, so let me show you some examples. You see the saw? Well, when it comes to functions, it's doing what it's supposed to do. So it's functioning fine. But yet we can improve functionality by adjusting the shape of the handle. We can add functionality because now you don't need a square. It has a 90-degree as well as a 45-degree angle. And this one even doubles as a ruler. When it comes to costs, you might say this is a nice looking watering can, and in fact it is, but it can be more cost effective than this. Well, it could look like this, for instance. This is also a watering can, but this is a single piece produced in injection molding using a relatively simple mold. And due to its shape, it's also stackable, reducing volume and reducing costs doing so. And in relation to problems, well, imagine this. Boiling water, try to remove the cap, and you burn your fingers. That could be a real problem. The designer of this kettle thought of a simple yet clever solution to remove the cap. So, only when you understand the problems and the possibilities, you will be able to simplify your product. You'll need a lot of knowledge, but is knowledge enough to do so? Well, I don't think so. Besides knowledge, you also have to build in feedback loops, assessing your design and making sure that you have the right information to make the right choices. Let me ask you one thing. Who of you has ever learned to ride a bike? Well, I bet you didn't learn that from a book. I can learn this book by heart and will still not be able to ride a bike in practice. This principle is called experiential learning. It's a cycle of trying, reviewing, and implementing. And an important feedback loop in product design is checking makeability. But let me first explain a bit more about experiential learning. Because in the Netherlands, over 84% have used experiential learning. Because according to the Cyclist Union, 84% owns at least one bike. So, important feedback loop in product design, as I said, is checking makeability. Because there's a high risk on relying only on your theoretical knowledge. Well, some years ago, I was supervising a student at his internship, and his assignment was to design a cupboard. And he made a very elegant design using 3D modeling software on a computer. And he was aware about simplifying the design, and one way to simplify your design is to reduce the number of different parts. So what he did, just made a quick model. He took one door and hinges, copied it and turned it around to create the other door. And he was very satisfied by his solution because he was able to reduce the number of different parts. Had he made a real-life model, this would have happened. Experiential learning. So, as a lecturer in design engineering, I believe it's vital for universities to have workshops where students can do experiential learning. And of course, the same goes for companies that are in the field of product development. They also need to do their share of experiential learning. Well, let me take you back to the story of NASA. At NASA, there are a lot of clever minds. And developing a writing device for space isn't exactly what I would call rocket science. So there seems to be something odd to this story. And when looking for background information for this talk, I found out that this is an urban legend. Because originally, NASA's astronauts, like the Soviets, used pencils. But the use of pencils has a number of problems. Graphite is non-permanent and can get smeared, which makes record keeping less adequate in quality. There are also substantial dangers that graphite dust or flakes or even broken pencil tips could cause harm to the electronic devices. And on top of that, a pencil is flammable, which is also something to be avoided. Well, in 1965, Paul Fisher developed a space pen. He used private investments and later sold this pen to the NASA as well as the Russians. This pen used pressurized gel-like ink, and it turned out to be even cheaper than the pencils they used. So the optimal and simplest solution, which maximizes functionality, minimizes costs, and minimizes problems, in this case, is a pen above a pencil. So, as a conclusion, I will give you one advice. Make sure you know your stuff and go out and do some experiential learning, because that's the way to learn. Thank you.